Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be unboxing and testing the Aursinc portable shortwave radio SDR. This right here is a clone of the DeepSDR 101 product by DeepElec. So stick around while we open up the box and run it through its paces.
We've been here once before. So many words unspoken. You took my heart, it's already broken. You don't have to wait. I can take the pain. I will surrender. Let me go on a new adventure.
Alright, welcome back. So, what was in the box? Here is everything that was in the box. First of all, you have your quick start guide, which is nothing more than a photocopy. If you'd like to pause it here and review this, that is up to you. I'm going to move on. Alright. What else was in the box? You have your antenna, which is your normal telescopic, flimsy aluminum antenna that you find with everything. Surprisingly though, this antenna works very well. It receives quite a bit with this antenna, but if you are a person who is serious about receiving anything on here, you're probably going to want to hook it up to an external antenna or at least something larger. And I'll go into an issue with an incorrect listing for this in a little bit. All right, so continuing on, you have your C-type charging cable / computer programming cable. And there's an issue with this as well, which I will explain to you later. You also have your stylus. Why does this come with a stylus? Well, believe it or not, it does have a touch screen on it. The stylus isn't the greatest, but it does function for the little bit that it actually needs to. I will continue with the demonstration momentarily, but here is the radio itself. It's actually not bad quality. Believe it or not, it is in an aluminum case. At least I believe it's an aluminum case. Usually these things would be basically two circuit boards sandwiched together, but they did a good job with this clone. Now here, you have your input for Type-C charging and for programming, your on-off switch, your 5-volt out. This is a charging status light and a power light. This is your encoder that basically does everything. This is the heart of the radio, and there's a couple ways you can use that, which I will explain to you as we go on. You have your speaker, which, believe it or not, is a seriously amazing speaker. It is loud. You have an audio out so that you could hook it up to a computer sound card. You can put headphones on it, put an external speaker on it if you need to. And then obviously your antenna port, which is an SMA port. This is a SMA female, and that is an SMA male that goes onto it. Hopefully it's not too blurry. All right, now I'm going to try to explain this radio to you as best I can. The instructions that come with it are very vague, so I had to learn it, and now I'm going to try to teach it to you guys. All right, so here's the radio. It's, like I said, it's a beautiful little radio. I don't find anything wrong with this aesthetically. I just wish the touchscreen worked better. So let me do a breakdown of the screen layout for you. Bring it in closer. Here you have your battery voltage indicator. And this claims to have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. I believe that. Without actually opening it up, I believe that that is the case because I have had this radio on for 14 hours straight. And it still didn't die. The battery, believe it or not, still had life in it, which surprised me. So that's your battery indicator. You have your date and your time here. And of course, that is in military time. That's 24 hours. I'm sorry if my camera keeps refocusing. Not quite sure why it's doing that. So up here, you have your channel, which you can program channels into it, and I'll explain to you how to do that. Here is the frequency that you're operating on. This radio is actually pretty decent in the fact that it'll tell you what band you are on as well. It'll tell you if you're listening to shortwave, long wave, medium wave, even goes through the ham bands. It'll tell you if you're on VHF, if you're listening to an air band. It's actually pretty nice in that respect. You also have IRQ and your FPS. Basically, your FPS is your frames per second. You wouldn't normally see that on a radio like this, on an SDR. You'd normally have a meter that basically tells you what your CPU is running at. But here, we don't have that. We have to go by the FPS meter to see what the CPU is doing, and if the CPU is getting a little overdriven, you will see that drop down. Here you have your speaker volume, which is for the internal speaker, and you also have volume for the audio jack. So if you wanted to hook this up to a computer, or say you wanted to hook it up to an external speaker, you actually have separate controls for both of those, and you can run them both at the same time, which is actually very nice. Here is your mode that you are operating in. And for your modes, you will have upper sideband, lower sideband, CW, which is Morse code, AM, wide FM, FM stereo. Believe it or not, this does do stereo if you plug in headphones or you have stereo speakers, and then IQ. And so it covers a substantial amount of the bands as well. It goes from 100 kilohertz up to 149 megahertz. So this radio does cover a substantial portion of the band. All right, next you have AGC, which is your automatic gain control. I don't usually use that, but you have the options of having it set as, let me see, off, slow, mid, or fast. Like I said, I don't normally use the automatic gain control. Your reference, that's what REF is actually the size you want to make this display. So if you're looking for signals that are far out, you'll want to increase the reference on it. Or if you're on a very quiet frequency, you'll want to increase that so that you can pull these signals up and see what's going on. LCD is just for the brightness of the display. It goes down quite substantial too. Believe it or not, leaving it at about 50%, which I generally do, it seems to work fine even in full sunlight. You can still read this pretty well. Now, your IF gain will actually drive the water wall, and it makes the radio more or less sensitive. If you're running your automatic gain control, this is going to have no effect on anything. However, since I don't use automatic gain control, I do use IF gain quite a bit. Power. Since we're not fortunate enough here to have a signal meter, which most radios do have, we have to go by the decibel reading for the power to figure out how powerful a station is, or how powerful transmission coming through is. So that's your power right there. You can also make changes to the scope. So if you want white and blue, just green with no fill, or you can have green with fill. And for the waterfall, you can go to an oscilloscope if you want and actually see the spectrum, which is actually really nice if you're listening to music on here, which this does do FM, so you will get music. What else is notable? You can adjust the reading for your scope here, 192 kilohertz, or I should say for the spectrum, 192 kilohertz, 128 kilohertz, 64 kilohertz. I usually keep it at about 192 myself because I like to see across a large portion of the band what is going on. Now, that's all out of the way. Let's get to talking about what the Stylus is capable of doing. The Stylus only has two functions, believe it or not. The first function is you can click and hold on the clock, and it allows you to set the time and the date. The second function is you can click on the frequency to type in a frequency you want to use. That's wonderful. That makes everything easy. You know, you can type everything in. That's all it does. You can't click anywhere else. One of the things that kind of disappointed me, and I was hoping this radio would be able to do that, is if you see a signal popping up, like let's say right here, normally on an SDR, you could click there and it would automatically tune. As you see, nothing happens. The screen just freezes temporarily. And that's all that happens, and that is very unfortunate, believe it or not. Okay, well, I just found out you can turn the screen off by doing that. So I guess if you really want to save battery power, double tapping on the waterfall with the Stylus turns the screen off. Who would have knew? I didn't know that. So I learned something today as well. Wonderful. All right, let me walk you through the encoder now, because like I said, the encoder right here is going to control absolutely everything on this radio. You control the volume, you control everything with this. So the encoder does feel nice. It is clicky. I don't know if you can hear. It is very clicky. It is a solid encoder. Very solid knob. It does not feel like it's going to get destroyed in any way, shape, or form by using it, which, like I said, is good because you're going to be using this knob quite a bit. All right, so the encoder has two functions. You can turn it or you can click it. Clicking it allows you to select between functions of the radio. So you see the red up here on the frequency right now, and then if I click it again, it goes to speaker volume, ear volume, USB, and then up the channel. Now, what I mean by it's got two functions is a way to breeze through everything would be to push in on it while turning it. And that allows you to quickly go anywhere you want on the radio. So for instance, if you want to change a frequency and you want to set it to, let's say, we'll do 5.6 megahertz. You'd end up taking the encoder, turning it over to here, setting that to 5, set this to 6, and now you're listening to 5.6 megahertz. It's really intuitive. It works very well. I've heard people complain that pushing this in hurts their fingers after a while, but I've been playing with this for quite some time and my fingers are perfectly fine. I have absolutely no problem pushing and clicking on this. I will admit, it did take me about a day or so to pick up on all the on the way that the encoder works and how to breeze through everything, but I did learn it quite well. Now, one of the things that is annoying about using the encoder and pushing the button in is that if you do that, that is a way to store a channel, believe it or not. So if you take a channel like, we'll go up to channel 50, for instance, and I set the encoder to, we'll say 6.5 megahertz. If I press and hold for more than 2 seconds, that channel is now saved to the radio at 6.5 megahertz. And that does get annoying because it has no problem overriding a channel that you've already set. So that's one of the down things I've found to this radio. There's a couple of them. Another issue I found with this radio is you can't program it with a computer. I don't know if it's just this one that is affected, but I plug it into my computer. It is supposed to register itself as a 1 megabyte SD card, removable card. It does not. My computer kicks back and says it doesn't recognize it, and that's on both my Mac and on my PC running Windows 10. I've tried installing drivers, I've tried pretty much everything, and I am stuck. It will not allow me to connect it to the computer, which is kind of sad because for the memory presets, you can actually alpha tag everything, and it makes it a lot easier if you can connect it to the computer to program that. I can't. And that also means I won't be able to update this radio with software updates. So that's unfortunate. That's problem 2 that I found with it. Problem 3, I was flipping through channels a couple nights ago on this when I first got it, and it froze. The computer actually froze. It wouldn't let me do anything else, and the display completely froze up on it. So that was interesting, but all it literally took was restarting the radio, which just powered off and it comes right back on. After it came back, it had no issues. It ran fine. All right, another issue that I have with this radio, well, not the radio, but the listing itself, is it clearly stated in the listing that it is a BNC connector. So it's got a BNC male connector for the antenna. So I wanted to hook it up to my antenna on the roof, or I should say in the tree. So I got a BNC connector to do PL256 to BNC. It is not BNC, it is actually SMA. So don't make the same mistake as me. If you do order this radio, get an SMA to PL256 connector. It is SMA male. On the radio, that is a female. So you're going to want to get an SMA connector. And I went a little overboard with mine because I should have gotten a female input on it as well. So it should be male, female, a PL256 female input to a SMA male output. That's not what I got. I ended up ordering male and male. Meaning, in order to connect this to my radio, I had to do something like this. So I have my PL256 connection coming in. I have an adapter, which allows me to connect the SMA adapter so that I can connect it to my radio. It works great as well. I will show you how this connects. And you will notice my radio is actually picking up quite a bit now. It works quite well. But don't make the same mistake as me. Even though they're only a dime a dozen for the connectors, definitely get the right one. So I would suggest getting a SMA male to PL256 female connector. Now I'm going to move on to showing you how this radio actually receives. I have some videos that I put together of picking up various frequencies across the spectrum. You have some ham radio, you have airband, you're going to hear FM and AM. And you can make the decision yourself on how you think the radio does at receiving. For all of these tests, I'm using the antenna outside. It is a dipole made of 2 ham sticks in a tree about 45 feet off the ground. If you would like, you can go watch the video of us actually installing that antenna. I'll put a link to it in the description, and it should be popping up in the top corner now for you. So let's move on to the test.
No response heard, nothing heard. Silver 19er Whiskey again, radio, go ahead. There's cell phone.
There were tens of thousands of intelligence officers and analysts and sensor networks and signals intelligence intercept systems and satellites and all sorts of different things that would be tasked with answering his question. And so if there's something out there that puzzles...
It's supposed to be like fraternity brothers or, you know, in the community, and some of them are crazy. Really, really bad. And anyway, but yeah, it's crazy what goes on there. I'm sorry. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Any other calls off too? No calls. You know, you went to the 5 times. It was just one. You went to the 5 times. It was still one. Unbelievable.
Partisan cooperation, we're keeping the government open without any poison pills or harmful cuts to vital programs. A great outcome for the American people. I hope we see more bipartisanship down the line.
Israel and the Palestinians have both criticized a UN Security Council resolution which demands urgent humanitarian pauses.
It's on Alexa app. Then ask Alexa for us. Like this. Alexa, play Rock 102.
What does it say about this team that you were shorthanded tonight? You come on the road in a hostile environment. They gon' try to take our swag, but they gon' never clone us. The riches.
Researchers found that homes with clean toilets were sick less often, and that access to a toilet decreased demands for domestic work. What researchers found is that clean, flush toilets leads to an increase in time as high as 7%.
The first one I say is Ron Rivera, because the Commanders have been stuck in neutral for years, and it's not all their fault. They haven't been able to come up with a single starting quarterback. It's Kirk Cousins.
My personal thoughts on this radio, I like it. It's a nice little compact portable radio. Like I said, I believe it does really good at receiving. It's completely across the bands, and it's got a great battery life on it. Even though the touchscreen isn't the greatest, I personally like it, and I would actually recommend getting it. If you want to save some money and you don't want to get the official DeepElec DeepSDR 101 radio, this is a nice radio to get for under $110. So I would suggest checking it out on Amazon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like it and please subscribe to the channel. That helps out immensely. Thank you.